Hi everyone, it's Heather. I was about to start decorating up this book cover and I thought you might like to see how I made this puffy heart cover. It's fairly straightforward. You may have made one already, but if you haven't and you'd like to know, then this is what I'm going to show you. So I used a die cutter. Now I did use one of the thick dies because originally when I made this I actually used really thick, it's called brown board, or it's like chipboard or grey board, and you have to use the thick die cutters with these. So I used for this one, I don't know where it is now, a Sizzix big shot die. I think it was a clear heart, but I'm going to show you with this one. So it's a Sizzix heart number 2, and these work particularly well because you've only got the one shape on the die, so you don't get all those other shapes sort of crammed around it when you actually cut it out, which is quite useful. So what you need to do this would be your covers. Now I used, like I say, nice thick brown board. You can use grey board, chipboard or something like that, something that's nice and sturdy. You're going to need a piece cut for the back, a piece cut for the front that are the same size because they're going to be your book covers. Then you need a piece of card. Now originally I did it with a piece of this brown board, but I've since discovered that you can actually use much thinner card, so you probably get away with just you'll probably get away with using a thinner die, so you might not necessarily need a thicker die like this. So you need a piece of card cut the same size as your cover, and you will cut you'll die cut a hole in that. Now obviously I've used a heart, but you could use a star or some other simple shape. Potentially you could cut that out yourself using a craft knife or whatever, or your electronic die cutting machine as well potentially. But you also need something to make the heart puffy, or something to make the shape puffy. I used some quilt batting, and because it's in a sheet I actually use the die cutter to cut that out as well. But obviously if you were doing it by hand, you could cut that out with a pair of scissors as well, as long as it generally fits the hole, because you want it in there. And what we're going to do is layer up a piece of fabric over the top that's just slightly bigger than the shape, and then this piece of card that you've cut out will layer up over the shape, and that's what makes the puffy heart. So what I would suggest is, before you stick anything down, that you take the shape that you've cut out, that you just layer that on top, and you just draw that shape in there, so you know whereabouts to stick your batting, because obviously when you put this down you want it to be in generally the right location, so that you know it's not sort of halfway across the cover. So I'm going to grab a pencil, I'll draw that, and then we'll cut this piece of fabric to size. So we'll just pop that piece of card with the hole in over the top. I'll just draw around it using it as a template, and then we're going to use, I'm actually going to use a 3-in-1 glue. I did use some other solvent based glue earlier when I did it, but I'm hoping that this glue will be strong enough. It's pretty strong, to be honest. I do quite a lot of work with this and it does tend to stay with fabric, so we'll just stick that down first in the right spot. And then what we're going to do, let's pull that top on for a minute, is make sure I've got enough fabric to layer on, making sure the fabric's the right way up. Just enough fabric to sort of layer on top. Look. That should be okay, quite like that. So just make sure I've got enough. And I'm going to remove this bit. This is from I think an old dress of my daughter's, and I tea-dyed it just to give it sort of a slightly shabbier look. So that's going to go on there. So now we're going to pop some more. In fact, let's pop that down to make sure I save my work surface just in case. So we're going to pop some glue just around the heart, because we're going to sort of stick it down quite snugly around the heart itself. Oops, careful not to unstick your batting. And I may as well just cover the page, because when I've stuck the fabric down, I'm just going to then pop a little bit more glue on top of the fabric. I don't know how many of you will remember, there was it was a big thing, wasn't it, years ago, sort of the 80s, these big puffy hearts for Valentine's Day cards. I remember them all being the rage. There were sort of red satin hearts on every card when I was growing up. All the teenagers gave them. Right, so that's there. But I quite like the puffy heart look. I'll just pop that on there and sort of stick it down around the edge. It doesn't have to be perfect, because the card sort of sticks it down properly. So now what we need to do is just pop some more glue around the puffy heart, because this is then going to hold the card in place. So I'll put plenty on there, because it'll have the effect of holding the fabric down as well. Well, it really makes the heart sort of puff up. Just might pop a tiny bit more on the edge. So you could emboss that before you stick it down, or decorate it up, or use a different colour card, but I've got so much of this brown card to use, that's why I'm using this. Right, so I'm going to stick that in place. A few little strings of glue. And just make sure that the card fits snugly on the top. You could make these as embellishments and then put them on top of cards or books, but they really do make nice covers. And then you can sort of decorate around the heart. You could even put pins in the heart. Little decorative pins. I think that would look nice. So there we go. So that's basically how to make a puffy heart book cover. Now this one I wanted to keep it simple, so I've just done book rings, and you can see that this actually isn't stuck down yet. So I did mine with the two pieces of the thick brown board, but I have an abundance of these little heart frames that I cut out ages ago, so I'm trying to think of ways to use them. So I just embossed this one. I'm going to layer that up, and I'm thinking I might do some collaging on the front of the book, and then layer this over the top, and then maybe layer a few pieces to the side here. So I'll be decorating that up in a moment. But basically that's how the puffy heart part was made. You could easily just punch a couple of holes like I did. I made a template so that when I add the pages, I can just use this template, so I can punch holes in the paper in the same place. And there's the back cover. So then I can pop book rings in there and just add bits to it as and when I want to. You could of course do the traditional binding method, use binding wires, or you could add a spine to that and sew in your signatures or bind in your signatures a different way, but obviously it's a basic and nice and easy different cover. So hopefully you enjoyed that and might give it a go. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and do consider subscribing if you aren't already, and remember to click that notification bell so you know when I upload in the future. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye.